for more funny Askreddit stories. Please subscribe and like the video. What's the fastest you've ever gone from caring about someone to straight up loathing them? When I was younger, I found out one of my childhood friends was stealing from me and the friendship group. Every so often we would lose a phone or iPad, then said friend would have conveniently got the same model, but beat it up a bit with his initials and tipbooks or something stupid. Being a good friend, we didn't want to believe it, but we started putting distinct markings on our items. Lo and behold, my phone goes missing, and he turns up with the same one a few weeks later with the markings. We brought him up on it, but he just lost his temper and stormed off. 15 years later, has in prison for armed robbery. We had a friend in our circle who did this with jewelry. She would take cheap things. For example, in the 80s everyone had these stud earrings in the shape of strawberries or ladybugs. Anyway, when you're 10 and someone steals your strawberry earrings, everyone just thinks you lost them, including you. Fast forward a few years and all of the moms start missing things. Class ring and other things that were sitting in jewelry boxes for a long time. Our friend is caught by one of the moms wearing her grandmother's antique engagement ring. Thief's mom is called and her stash is fully discovered. She had stolen so much that it's hard to describe it all. I saw a huge pile of junk/kids jewelry interlaced with actual nice mom jewelry. Most everything I had lost over the years was there. It was shocking and heartbreaking. I'm not sure if charges were filed, but she was sent to some reform school. 25-ish years later she pops up on Facebook. She's in her MLM. Childhood friend stole 5k cash from one of our friends in college. We all knew it was him, but couldn't fully prove it, even though for a while afterwards he'd buy new jackets and expensive liquor despite not having a job. Looking back, we should have kicked him from our friend group. But we were 18, heavy on booze and drugs, and partying with bad judgment, and the victim had about 180k, so he said fuck it, I don't want drama. He also didn't want cops involved. As you can guess, his money wasn't entirely legal. Later in life, the same guy who stole the cash admitted, while extremely drunk, that he steals cash and watches/personal items from corpses. He worked as one of those corpse collectors who would bag a body that had been found and take it to the morgue. We don't hang with that dude anymore. Pretty sure he killed someone in Alberta too. One summer back in high school years, I had a crush on this girl, and we'd hang out when we weren't working together. A friend of mine would keep insisting that I should just ask her out. So I mustered my courage and asked her out. Yeah, it was a glorious fail. I still remember when she smiled and told me the truth. That was when I found out that they had been secretly dating for a year and thought it would be a lark to just fuck with Maine. 100 and a few words and a vicious smile. Loved, still love, playing Pokemon, and I had no female friends with the same interest. Found out about this group of guys that played it after school. Got really excited and made plans with them. I waited for hours and they never showed up. Next day I overhear my best childhood friend laughing about how annoying I was and that they had to hide from me to play in peace. That really hurt. There was a girl who was the photographer at my wedding. We had been friends for a bit, being the only female motorcycle riders in our group. I started to get the feeling that she and a few other friends were talking shit on me and my husband. Just weird vibes. FB comments that all seemed to be referencing me. I had just moved to a new state away from these friends, and so all of that was very overwhelming. I blocked the friends and went on with my life. A few months later, I made a post on a female group and she commented on it. She said she could see I had deleted her, but she hoped I was well. I decided to message her and just say sorry, I guess. Well, come to find out she was talking shit on me a lot. And she didn't care because she thought I deserved it, and it was my fault they talked shit on me for being so weird. And it was my fault I left it affect our friendship. Fuck that. Haven't spoken to her since, even when we go back for events with our crew. People who talk shit on other people suck ass. Friend at a bar tells some people we just met how her mother died. Later in the night I express my sympathy. Now she's without parents. She told me hush hush a few years prior about how father had passed. Wait, did I tell you back then my dad died? I thought I told you it was my mum. No, both my parents are still alive. When we were in uni I just read in a book telling people a parent has died isn't good way to get sympathy. Haha. Fucking sociopath. My ex-girlfriend. We were childhood sweethearts. Dated from 17 to 25. Found out she was cheating on me with her boss, who was more than twice our age. Then proceeded to find out there was many more occurrences, and she was a very different person than the person I'd been dating. Shattered. 1 year friendship with this girl. I invited her over to my new apartment. She came over and wanted to gossip about her coworkers. When she paused, I tried to add into the conversation, make a joke, give reassurance, add a comment, etc. But she would immediately raise her voice and start talking over me. I kept getting angrier every time it happened, until I was actually loathing her internally. She was so self-absorbed that she didn't notice I went from smiling and engaged to frowning while staring off into space. After 2+ hours of not being allowed to talk, I made up an excuse to kick her out of the apartment and then vowed to never see her again. The first girl I ever dated died unexpectedly on my then current GF and my 3-year anniversary. My then GF stated she was pissed because my ex had died on purpose that day because it was our anniversary. I was utterly disgusted and it completely changed how I viewed her altogether. Things fell apart shortly after and we broke up. My best friend back in school got a ref from the teacher. Me and him asked if we can go to the toilet. I go to the toilet to text a bit with friends from other school. He goes to the parking lot and scratches the teacher's car. School break and the teacher finds his car. We both get called to the director etc etc. Friend said that we both scratched the car. Ia showed the teacher my phone to show him I was texting and couldn't have scratches his car. Told friend to fuck off and went out. My, at the time girlfriend, had a little sister. She was graduating from college, and her college was not close by. It was a few states away, and at least a 5-hour drive. We both loved the sister, but we weren't going to make it to her graduation. We couldn't afford a hotel for the weekend, and we couldn't take off from work to get there on time. She freaked out on us. It was the biggest tantrum I've seen an adult make. My GF and I both assumed it wasn't that big of a deal. But seeing how much her sister freaked out, we re-evaluated the situation. So, we packed up quickly and drove through the night to get there. She told us we could sleep in her apartment that night, but that we'd need to get a hotel the following night. That was fine. We found something online for like $100 a night. We got to her place in record time. It was not even midnight. We felt like heroes for making up so quickly. We get to her apartment, and she won't let us in. She says she's already in bed, and we should have gotten there earlier if we wanted to take her up on her offer. So, we are both exhausted, and we have nowhere to stay. I wanted to just turn around and go back home, but my GF was a better person than me. Luckily we had other friends in the city, and one was nice enough to give us their couches for the night. It's been like 15 years, and I assumed the sister was getting one last lay with a college hookup, because I could not imagine any other scenario where she couldn't simply walk down 2 flights of stairs to open the door for us. I ended up marrying the GF, and still bring up this situation anytime she gets in a fight with her sister. It's usually I can't believe how selfish my sister is being, and I go you can't. Remember that time we drove to her college grab and she cuts me off? Of course she also remembers it. Coworker had a dog who she let run free on her property. Said dog liked to chase cars. So it was only a matter of time, and the dog was it. Dog couldn't walk for 2 days, was dragging herself around for days after that. We told her to bring her to the vet, and she refused, because it was too expensive. We pulled together the money and told her, bring your damn dog to the vet. And she did. The dog's bones in her legs and pelvis were shattered, and the dog had no chance of recovering. Coworker finally let the poor thing die peacefully. So anyhow, it was $50 to put this dog to sleep. And since then, every time my coworker spends money on something frivolous and shows us novelty socks, collectibles, an expensive cake, another fucking pet, I think about how she decided bringing comfort to a dying animal wasn't worth paying for. Found out this girl I was getting close to had been lying about her ex being a deadbeat dad, and well, her ex, he wasn't just still in the picture, they lived together. I should have guessed after the third or fourth time she made an excuse to not go to her place. Never ended something so quick. Two friends were renting a place. One moved out, and I moved in, and took over their half. After a while, my friend decides he's gonna move to out of state. Okay, fine. I decide to just move back home for a bit. He packs up and leaves town in like a day. My friend that I took over for, and I were still there clearing out some things they had left behind. The landlord shows up looking for now out of town dude, wondering where the last 2 months rent are. Guy was just taking my money and pocketing it, and then skipped town. Didn't even tell the landlord he was leaving. Thankfully the landlord forgave it all. When my best friend of 10 years slept with my boyfriend of 2 years. I was so crushed, but to be honest was more angry with the friend. I truly did believe that I was deeply in love with the boyfriend, but he was kind of a shithead to begin with. I saw my friend as a sister, and her betrayal left longer lasting impact and hurt way more. I hated her in a violent way for a very long time. Fast forward 11 years and now I'm to a point where I have forgiven her and wish her well, but would never let her back into my life again. Partner of 3 years broke up with me via text while I was at work. I lost my job by leaving work immediately to go home, a complete wreck, to discover he had given his friends a month's notice, so they all helped him move, and I was literally the last one to know. When he left suddenly like this, he had in his account the money I had raised for charity by shaving my head because of my father's terminal illness. Went from upset to level 1000 rage as soon as I realized this. Edit. Wow, I didn't really expect this to get much attention. Thanks for the silver. To answer questions. I'm in Australia. I was a casual worker for a photography business. When I read the text I told my boss through tears that I had to go immediately. I left before being asked questions. They tried to call me a few times, but I was too upset to try and explain. I was not put back on the roster after this, and can understand why. The losing my job part of this story is the part that hurt the least really, but seems to be the part everyone is focused on. No, it was not an emergency that I needed to leave for, but after the text my ex would not respond at all, and I needed answers as to what was happening, because this came out of nowhere. By the time I got home I only just managed to get there in time to actually speak to him about what was going on. No, I never got the money back. I contacted police who said that, because I had it in his account, because bills automatically came from my account and I didn't want any of the $2,000 taken out. It wasn't something they could do anything about. It was raised independently, so it's not something that I can contact the charity over either. No, this was not an abusive relationship on his part or mine, and no, I did not deserve to be left suddenly like this. As for why he had a whole plan on how to leave in place before doing it, and why he waited until I was at work, all I can say is I guess he knew how upset I would be to find out he suddenly didn't want to be around anymore. I was in the middle of a very rough patch and already handling things badly. I think he didn't want to face the results of what he wanted to do, so he kept it secret and avoided dealing with me in person. I'm doing much better now. The thing that still hurts is not that it ended so suddenly and badly, but that he took that money it took me 2 years to raise it, and felt like the only thing I could do for my terminally ill father. Was at my wife's family Christmas gift exchange. My wife is estranged from her direct family, so this was all of the uncles, aunties, and cousins. There were multiple nieces and nephews running around having a good time. We all agreed to a white elephant exchange for the adults, so we didn't have to buy a lot of gifts. We did that the night before, and did the gifts for the kids in their morning. Morning rolls around and all the kids are opening gifts, except my son. None of those entitled asshats got him anything. He sat there and watched everyone else open multiple gifts, and it broke my heart to see him sitting there with nothing. Fuck those people right up their stupid assholes. I was at a party which was very druggy. About halfway through the night someone dashed into the house and told us that one of the lads at the party had attempted to jump from the roof of one house to another and had fucked it up and was lying in a heap on the floor. I've never sobered up so fast in my life. It was like being hit with adrenaline. We ran outside and, sure enough, the lad was in a mess, completely out of it. One of the lads who had brought a lot of the drugs to the party got out of there so quick and was able to pocket a couple of mobile phones and some cash on his way out. Fucking scumbag. Had a male bestie for more than 10 years. One night I was upset and crying cause I witnessed my friends die at the beach a few weeks earlier. He stays over to comfort me and suggests he sleep over so I wouldn't be alone. He promised he wouldn't do anything. I believed him. So he held me while I cried myself to sleep. I wake up to him fingering me. Without my consent obviously. I lost my mind and told him off and kicked him out my house. He came back a few days later to apologize, but I was so disgusted with him, I told him to fuck off and never talk to me again. I blocked him. I felt so disgusted and betrayed. My ex was severely depressed and drinking at my place one night. I own a lot of knives and guns because Murica. I wanted to make my bedroom as safe as possible, so I was taking everything pointy, shooty, or ligature like and giving it to my roommate to keep safe as I would stay with my ex in my room. Bathroom was attached. I handed off stuff to my roommate and heard a commotion in my room. Found my ex on the edge of my bed with the gun I kept at bedside. It had been the last thing I needed to get past him and didn't think he knew about. He went from pointing it at himself to pointing it at me. I talked him down from that and told him I wouldn't call the cops if he stayed in the room until sober and called a therapist in the morning. He physically fought me to try to get out, but was drunk and tired and eventually laid in bed and cried himself to sleep. I slept by the door until morning. I woke up covered in bruises to a nightmare about him shooting me. I recognized he was sick, but also he was capable and willing to kill me. I never saw him the same way again. We no longer speak. There had been a lot of red flags before this point, but I was far too blind and far too lonely to recognize them. Had a really great friend in high school. He was cool, but he's always be trying to sell stuff to people in the hallways, like video games or pocket knives or sunglasses. After over a year of being friends with him, he came over to my house to hang out, and when he left a bunch of my favorite video games were missing. I realized what was happening, and I had plans on forgiving him if he just fessed up and apologized. Instead he got super defensive and angry, and I instantly lost any respect I had for the guy.